Of DNC staffer Seth Rich, who was murdered last summer. A federal investigator telling Fox News that an FBI forensic report of Rich's computer showed he made contact with WikiLeaks through a former reporter and London-based WikiLeaks director, Gavin McFadden. The investigator told Fox News Rich provided McFadden with more than 44,000 emails, nearly 18,000 attachments. Rich was murdered near his D.C. home on the morning of July 10th. But his wallet, his cell phone, his watch not taken. WikiLeaks 12 days later published internal emails showing top DNC officials trading ideas on how to hurt Senator Bernie Sanders at the polls, and those emails resulting in the resignation of Debbie Wasserman Schultz, who was the chair of the DNC, and the DNC's 3 top officials because of the obvious conclusion portrayed in those emails.
The stuff that you're sitting on, is an October surprise in there? Do you even know what you're sitting on?
WikiLeaks never sits on material. Whistleblowers go to significant efforts to get us material, and often very significant risks. There's a 27-year-old that works for the DNC who was shot in the back, murdered just 2 weeks ago for unknown reasons as he was walking down the street in Washington. So
that was just a robbery, I believe, wasn't it?
No, there's no finding. So
what are you suggesting? What are you suggesting?
I'm suggesting that our sources take risks, and they become concerned to see things occurring like that.
But was he one of your sources then? I mean,
we don't comment on who our sources are.
But why make the suggestion about a young guy being shot in the streets of Washington?
Because we have to understand how high the stakes are in the United States, and that our sources are, our sources face serious risks. That's why they come to us, so we can protect their anonymity.
But it's quite something to suggest a murder. That's basically what you're doing.
Well, others have suggested that. We are investigating to understand what happened in that situation with Seth Rich. I think it is a concerning situation. There's not a conclusion yet. We wouldn't be willing to state a conclusion, but we are concerned about it. And more importantly, a variety of WikiLeaks sources are concerned when that kind of thing happens.
This is a guy who is a real Bernie Sanders supporter, open Bernie Sanders supporter who worked for the DNC. The DNC absolutely rigged the primary against Bernie Sanders. He was aware of this. He was there while this was all going down. So was Donna Brazile. Everyone was aware of it. The guy got fucking murdered after he leaked information to WikiLeaks. If you don't think that's a little weird, what are you looking at? What delusional rose-colored glasses are you looking at your party from? You think you're in some Julia Roberts movie from 1990? This is real shit. Some guy got killed. He was 24 years old. He was a young guy who was very optimistic and had this view of the world where the guy fucking wore American flag pants and shirt. There's a famous picture of him with a beer on. He's a patriot in a lot of ways. He wanted to be involved in the political process. He was very idealistic. He was probably shattered by finding out that the party that he was working for was corrupting the democratic process. And because I've said this before, I've been accused of helping Donald Trump win by really wacky people online, like by pointing out all the flaws of Hillary Clinton. Like, look, man, you can't ignore that shit because you want one side to win. I've talked about all of his flaws too. There's a lot of flawed human beings that run for president, pretty much all of them. I mean, it's very rare you have someone who's not flawed. Right. Extremely flawed. We're all flawed. But extremely flawed who wants to be the fucking king of the world. It's very rare. Listen, man, I'm not a fucking reputable person.
That's what I try to tell
my
people.
Political ideologies. I mean, I'm just not. I'm not that well-read when it comes to politics. I have my opinions on things. But when it comes to things that are rock solid and clear, like that Seth Rich was murdered and people want to ignore it, I'm like, what the fuck do you think happened? There has to be some sort of a disconnect here. When a person is giving information to WikiLeaks that exposes corruption inside the very organization that's responsible for the fucking Democratic Party, and he gets murdered, and you're like, oh, the conspiracy theories. No, he got murdered. There's no conspiracy. It was a botched robbery. Says who? Says who? Where's his? How come his wallet was there? How come his watch was there? How come they didn't take his phone? What the fuck are you talking about that I'm a conspiracy theorist when I just tell you the facts? And this WikiLeaks thing with Julian Assange is the craziest shit ever when he said there's consequences to sharing information with us. He works for Russia now. He works for Russia. So he was the darling of the left when Obama was in office.
So isn't that amazing? So Julian Assange, he's just a great news guy who's tough as nails.
He can't leave. He's stuck in the Ecuador embassy
By the way,
forever.
that case was so fucked.
So fucked.
So fucked. He's been so fucked, and it's because the CIA wants him so bad, and they control everybody. And now they have influence over Ecuador, and they're trying to fuck. They're trying to get a Halliburton guy to be their new. Anyway,
they might just blow up that place.
The gas leak. No doubt, right? I wouldn't be surprised if shit like that happened.
More stuff comes out, like the SETH stuff. The amount of people, and this is where I leak any conspiracy. The amount of people connected to the Hillary Clinton organization, to the Clinton Foundation, to Bill Clinton, the amount of people that have been iced is stunning. But then some of them are bullshit, coincidental, and you know people, and they're in a weird job, and people get killed. There's a lot of people that have been killed. A lot.
The timing is so interesting here. The week that this breaks on Fox News in a story they later had to retract and acknowledge was didn't meet their editorial standards, Sean Hannity is shouting it from the rooftops. What's going on that week? It's the week that Mueller is appointed. It's the week Comey is fired. It's when the Russia story is blowing up. What better way to deflect from the Russia story than to point the finger at this, this guy in Washington who was shot in an armed robbery? It wasn't the Russians, it was Seth Rich.
I would firstly address the DNC data that was posted by WikiLeaks. And that clearly showed evidence of a property called a file, fat format file. That's the file allocation table format, meaning every time it's reading, it's a program and a software used to read data to a storage device, either a thumb drive or CD-ROM, something like that. And as it does that, it changes the last modified time on each file to the nearest even second. Okay, it's just a function of that program. So when that occurs, all those times, the last modified, are changed on all the files. So when we looked at all the DNC emails from the 23rd, 24th, and 25th of May, all of them ended in even numbers. So, and that was 500, probably a little more than that. I didn't count all. So. But that means that the random chance of that occurring would be 1 chance in 2 to the 500th power. In other words, 1 chance in a 1 followed by over 150 zeros. Meaning it's obviously that was a factor that proved that a program was used to do that, and the program that does it is FAT, file allocation table formatting. So that says that data was downloaded to a physical device, either a thumb drive or CD-ROM, and then transported physically before WikiLeaks could publish it or put it on the web. So that said to us that it wasn't a hack from Russia. It was an inside job or somebody close in that downloaded the data to a storage device and then took it physically.
That's what, that was the whole subtext of what Sean Hannity was pushing that week. And who does he have on? Jay Sekulow. Didn't say it at the time. Sekulow had just been named as Trump's lawyer in the Russia investigation. And he's saying, what is he saying on Fox News? This undercuts the whole Russia narrative. That was the message they were pushing.
So the predicate for all of this, I think, and maybe even earlier, but to my knowledge, late in the summer of 16, with the hacking of the DNC. And the emails from the DNC. And the FBI never investigated it, never investigated the actual, the physical removal of this data from their servers. Instead, a company called CrowdStrike, which worked for the Democratic Party, did. And then exactly at that moment, or right around that moment, a DNC staffer was killed in Washington, D.C. in an apparent robbery in which nothing was taken from him that I happen to know for a fact the MPD, the Metropolitan Police Department, thought was like bizarre. And they kind of didn't believe it. A Fox News host went on air and asked questions about this killing. Why wouldn't you? And the parents of the man who was killed either sued or I think they sued. They certainly threatened to sue and basically scared the crap out of everyone. So no one's ever asked a question about it since.
They hired a private investigator who looked around in that case, I remember. And there were some odd details there. The FBI ended up in possession of his laptop. And then
why would the FBI wind up in? I mean, this is a local crime, right?
Yeah, this was one of the first reasons I started to look at that case because I got a call from somebody about that, And, I don't know why that was the case, but it is the case.
And there were people at the DNC, one of whom I know, who thought that he was murdered for political reasons at the DNC. A very high-ranking person at the DNC told me that. And I probably should just say, but everyone can guess who it is who's informed on this, but I don't want to betray confidence, but I'm not making this up.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know what happened, but like, as far as I know, not one person has looked into that in the media.
No, and, even if it is just an unsolved murder of a type that they normally solve, the whole situation, that whole timeline was very strange. It doesn't really make sense. The hacking of the DNC, the bringing in of CrowdStrike, when the information was released online, they never really proved that case, but they immediately made inferences about it. And there was an incredibly sophisticated kind of public campaign to create this narrative that, upon closer examination turns out not to be true. So we got to go back and find out what did exactly happen there.
On November 1, 2016, Hillary and Bill Clinton and their entourage of assistants effected a civilian coup. In contrast to the usual concept of a coup where the military is involved and takes over the White House and communication centers, very much like the scenarios you see in a movie, this coup was done silently and very effectively through two methods: corruption and co-optation. The Clintons have been involved in co-opting our White House, our judiciary, our CIA, our Federal Bureau of Investigation, our Attorney General, Loretta Lynch, and our Director of the FBI, James Comey, for some time now. What they've done is to make sure that they were part and parcel of a group of people who were interrelated through political cronyism. However, in order to stop this coup, we in the intelligence community and others involved have informally gotten together, and with their permission, I am beginning to announce that we've initiated a counter coup through Julian Assange and WikiLeaks. What has happened in effect when Comey had to open up the case of Hillary Clinton and discuss the emails that were involved with the Anthony Weiner case, it was not the case itself that was as important as the fact that this was the entree for many of us in the counter coup to say to the administration, we have your number. Not only do we have your number, we're going to stop you from making Hillary the President of the United States. And at the same time, we will convict and indict the President of the United States, Loretta Lynch, and many others who were involved in the cover-up of the massive corruption that occurred under the Clinton Foundation. Now, in both cases, their coup was silent, and our counter coup was silent, and it was all transgressed or occurred on the internet. And this is probably the first time in the history of any country where a coup was initiated through the internet and a counter coup was initiated through the internet. I am just a small part of something far bigger than myself. It was the brave men and women who were in the FBI, the CIA, the Director of Intelligence, the military intelligence, and men and women in 15 other intelligence organizations who were sick and tired of seeing this corruption in the White House, in the Justice Department, and in the intelligence system. And we decided that there was something we had to do in order to save the Republic. So we initiated a counter coup through Julian Assange, who's been very brave and really quite formidable in his ability to come forth and provide all the necessary emails that we gave to him in order to undermine Hillary and Bill Clinton. Again, America, we're going through a major, major transition and, quite frankly, a second American Revolution. We do not have guns. We do not have weapons. We do not intend to kill anybody. We do not intend to harm anybody. But we, the American public, and those of us who serve as veterans and in the intelligence service like myself, will stop the Clintons from assuming power that they don't deserve. At the same time, we will make certain that Obama leaves without any trail of a pardon or any other act of treason. In effect, we want a peaceful transition in this great American Republic. I bring you this news, and I want you to understand what has happened. A moment of history is occurring right now in front of us. and I'm proud to explain it to you.